I'm going to flip the coin a little bit and ask you to read Letter to My Assailant.
Okay, can you
'Cause it's a
hand? Let's do
slightly
a
different-
trade-off here.
But
and
there's something that I find in both
well,
of these poems.
and this poem, which is my probably my best known poem. I have about 3 poems that are republished often, and poets have a complicated relationship with, say, a couple of their most famous poems, because on one hand you feel grateful, at least I have a poem that people like and want to republish and remember and enjoy and so on. But on the other hand, you're going, but what about this other poem that I love that nobody ever talks about? And what about this poem over here that never gets chosen? So it's that kind of, I've had poets say to me, I don't want you to publish this poem again because it's been published a million times. But in that case, it's because there's something so distinctive about that poem. This is what I call pre-noir, in that I was not really exploring noir, not cinema, not film noir when I wrote this, but you're going to get this edge of dark irony. And it was about a true, this did happen to me. In fact, this happened to me in San Francisco, not in LA. And it took me about 2 years, more than 2 years, to write this poem, more like 3 years. I didn't write it until I could hear the voice. And I didn't want to, it's about an assault. And I knew that I did not want to write an ordinary sort of confessional poem or a complaining poem or any sort of poem that anybody would imagine a woman would write about an assault. If it was ordinary, I wasn't going to do it. And then I got this voice, a distance, that voice of detachment. And when I found that, I went, oh, I know what I can say in this poem. I know how to do this now. And I heard it in the first line. Letter to my assailant. On such occasions, one comes to know someone spectacularly fast. Even with your unfriendly arm at my throat, you could hide nothing from me. Your failures with women, for instance, filed through my mind, and I knew your father was hostile to doors. He liked to slam them or break them down. Your mother worked her way up from dime store to drugstore. Even in her grave, her hopes kept shrinking. Now she's thin as a spindle. I even knew, without looking, your socks had red diamonds like a small town boy's. In fact, with my breath stopped in my throat, your whole life flashed past my eyes. But I didn't let on. I can't breathe, I gasped, and you loosened your hold. I suppose I should have been grateful. Instead, I felt impatient with men, with their small favors. I suppose you felt the same about me. You'd no sooner reached through my torn blouse when my screams made you bolt. We leapt from each other like 2 hares released from a trap. Uh-oh, something's not right between men and women. Perhaps we talked too much. Maybe we left too much unsaid. When you ripped my shirt, mumbling, oh, I don't want to hurt you, I replied, that's what they all say. I'll admit I was glib if you'll admit you were insensitive. Look, the world is brimming with happy couples, benign marriages with men and women who've adjusted to each other's defects. Couldn't we adjust to each other's defects? I'll begin by trying harder not to forget you, to remember more clearly your approximate height and your brown shirt, which I described to the police. Our encounter must stand out in our minds, distinct from all others. I never intended for all this to become blurred in my memory, to confuse you with other men. It gets
Thank
a lot.
you.
It gets a lot. Believe it or not, you're not wrong to kind of laugh, because people laugh. It's a dark. I mean, there's something satisfying about really dark comedy, because it sometimes resonates with people's own dark knowledge, if you know what I mean.
I think my laughter is not.
Yeah, I know. It's your laughter is appropriate. Believe me. It's
There's a certain truth that
yeah,
I've
yeah,
read that several times
yeah.
now, and you're reading it. There's a certain truth that is. I think you expressed it well.
Yeah. And when you recognize something as truth, there's a way that it's funny, because you're going, yes, you're going, no, exactly, you know, even though sometimes it's not, or it's not, yeah, well, yeah, it's got a dark, it's both funny and tragic at the same time, you know. Yeah.